So let's have a closer look at those front pages. We'll start with Tuesday's Guardian, Leo.
So the UK has suspended 30 arms export licences to Israel after a 2-month review that obviously started under the Tories. So this is conducted by the Foreign Office. And the UK is broken with the Biden administration on a significant part of their tightly coordinated policy towards Israel by announcing it's suspending some arms export licences to Israel because of a clear risk that the arms may be used to commit or facilitate a serious violation of international humanitarian law, which, I don't know, it seems unfair because I feel like Israel is having to fight a very awkward war against, an asymmetric war against terrorists who are hiding behind civilians. So it's very difficult to actually defend their country without, harming anyone.
It's like trying to pick ice cream out of a sandy beach, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's, the damage is already done.
I wouldn't use sand in the analogy because I don't want to go to jail in Keir Starmer's Britain. But
also, I would say, there's quite a lot of people sort of hinting as much. It's a domestic policy as much as an international policy, isn't it? They're trying to keep, a large section of their vote on side, basically.
Well, that's true. This is one of the those questions because in a future thing that we're covering, what's his name? Jeremy Starmer. Jeremy Corbyn. Starmer.
Yeah, they're not all called Starmer. Yeah.
No,
he's not like a big family.
That was a joke. Sorry. You couldn't tell it was a joke. But he's taken off people. He's taking people to the Muslims. There are 4 other Muslims going off. So he has to do something. It's it's less than 10% of all of these licenses, and it doesn't involve anything that important. But the truth is, it's from the Foreign Office. And even when I was in America, I used to hear about how Islamophilic the Foreign Office was back in the day, and if they were involved in this...
Well, it wasn't seen as Islam so much then. It was Arabist was the word, but they were definitely Arabist. In fact, there's a famous scene from Yes Minister or Yes Prime Minister that gets shared where Sir Humphrey, do you remember the sitcom?
Yes.
Where Sir Humphrey is explaining to Jim Hacker, the MP, that the Foreign Office... are strongly Arabist in their sympathies. And it's interesting because there's very little evidence of that anymore these days.
Yeah, well, I used to work for the Foreign Office, and they're certainly right on board with all the diversity, equity and inclusion nonsense. And it was I wish I was still there at the time when you were picking pronouns and stuff. It would have been fun. We got to think in 25 years' time, and we can already see the tilt, Britain being pulled leftward. But in 25 years' time, with the growing Muslim population, we're going to be arming Hamas instead.
Yes. Well, I mean...
No. We're going to be Hamas.
Moving to the Daily Mail, Lewis. Have they got anything more cheerful?
Yes, well, it's not. Yeah, it's good news. It's all good news coming out of this stuff today. Labour now are running scared over winter fuel backlash. Starmer's MPs panic over cash blow for 10 million old age pensioners, which, of course, I am. I've been here for 25 years already. I've been here... not as long, whatever it is. I've been here a long time.
Are you genuinely entitled to a subsidy now?
I am.
My God.
I am.
And
because I actually worked and I paid some taxes. It's way more than I deserve.
This is what annoys people because it's like a blanket benefit. It's a blanket subsidy.
We're going to need a blanket.
There's a lot of so-called pensioners who are actually fat cats.
But you're totally right because once you give money to people, you can't take it away. No. And that's happening all across in America too and here.
It's sticky. That's what they used to say about wages. Sticky. They only go in one direction. They ratchet. Yeah. And
look at how great you look.
Yeah, thank you. This is not meat. This is just shaving.
Well, maybe that's all you need to do.
So, it's interesting. Is it interesting? It's certainly a bold move. He's come out so hard against quite a few demographics, hasn't he, Starmer? I would assumed so that he can time it better than Rishi Sunak did, basically. Sunak blundered terribly, didn't he?
Yeah.
Horrific kind of measures taken economically, and then he could have even just waited for the summer to go. He basically called an election while everyone was still fuming.
Yeah, and it was just a head-off reform, which didn't even work
at all.
But it's great to see. While I'm enjoying seeing Labour, dragged over the coals, which obviously the pensioners won't be able to afford, but 10 million OAPs who I'm sure wished they'd actually bother getting out and voting for the Tories now. But there is a point that our system is being geared towards a lot of the wealth in the country is held by older people. I know it's not all older people, but it does make sense to sort of means test some of these things.
I think means testing for heating allowance is perfectly reasonable and indeed for everything really.
Use it. And you know what I would do? I'd use a thermometer.
Yeah. You got two choices. What's on the front of the Telegraph, Leo?
So petrol cars are going to be rationed to meet eco targets, or they already are being rationed. So car makers are rationing sales of petrol and hybrid vehicles in Britain to avoid hefty net zero fines, according to one of the country's biggest dealership chains. This is Robert Forrester, who's the chief executive of Vertu Motors. He said manufacturers are delaying deliveries of cars until next year amid fears they will otherwise breach quotas set for them by the government. So if you order a car today, you won't get it until February. And so basically everybody wants to buy a petrol or hybrid car. But under these quotas, at least 22% of cars sold by manufacturers have to be electric from this year. And if they don't hit these quotas, they get the manufacturers get charged 50 or fined £15,000 for each petrol car that exceeds their quotas. There's obviously no profit in doing that. They lose money on selling them.
It's mad. And I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. Living in Brighton, I know it's just, n equals 1, but it's impossible to charge them.
Yeah.
Nobody's got driveways. Nobody's even allowed to build driveways. There's like one charger per, 500 houses. I've seen queues building up in the like double parked,
Right, wow.
people just queuing for chargers.
Well,
it's the infrastructure is not there.
It's not there. And people they like gas cars, and they're brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, as cars go. But there's a huge anti-car world out there where people hate cars, and this is a left-wing commie thing.
If it was all ready to go, if it was a smooth transition, then I'd be up for it. They're quieter, it's cleaner, it will bring interesting real estate in London, Kennington Road, some beautiful old Victorian, early Victorian terraces that have been filthy houses of multiple occupancy because of the traffic may become desirable again. There's all sorts of little, eventually, if possible.
No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen? First of all, these electric cars, people don't want electric cars because then they can turn them off through the internet.
Yeah.
They have more control.
Yeah, right.
Over
Social
us.
credits. Well, let's have a very quick look at the Mirror.
Mirror, Kia versus Oasis. Starmer proposes clampdown on Gallagher's dynamic pricing. This is Oasis, which I wasn't really involved with until last year. I don't even know why.
Oh, right.
Last year I started watching.
Well, it was 94.
James Hargreave and watching these YouTube videos about how great, and they're amazing. And I actually.
There were 5 great years. There were 10 awful years. They lumbered on like punch-drunk dinosaurs, unwilling to accept that they were over.
Exactly.
And this is what comebacks always do. You go immediately back to the glory years. And you forget that there were 10 years of everyone just going, my God.
Because the truth was, they only had 3 years of good times.
Noel wrote most of the songs on the first 2 albums in a single, long weekend, I think, like Dylan used to, a couple of big hoots. And
but they were brilliant songs, and he's pretending that they were nothing. I ran into him, and I actually saw him. And
they were great. But it's no business of the Prime Minister, is it, to get involved in ticket sales? Unless a law has been broken.
Well, dynamic pricing is brilliant, because it says, however, who wants to pay more money?
I agree. Otherwise, it goes to the touts, doesn't it? This is, the ridiculous fact is, touts make more money now out of selling tickets than and half of the. I mean, I bought some tickets of a company called Via Go-Go once because I didn't understand how it worked, and they are essentially legal touts. They were, 4 times the cover price, and the thing hadn't sold out. I didn't realise. I just thought this was the listed price. They buy they do the Google.
Yeah, the government doesn't need to get involved in free market decisions, voluntary decisions between people. The government, it's like the electric car thing. Why is the government getting involved and telling people, no, you can't buy that. No, you've got to buy this.
Because they're commies. That's why they are.
I'm very relieved to hear that.
Because the commies, and what Cressida says is this country doesn't like people making money.
No. Yeah. We need to get back to Adam Smith. That's the fact. That's the front page is done. Back shortly.